Our next story is about CIA's secret drone flights over Mexico. According to U.S. officials, the U.S. has stepped up secret drone flights over Mexico to hunt for fentanyl labs. Now, this is part of the Trump administration's more aggressive campaign against drug cartels. The secret drone program, which has not been previously disclosed, reportedly started under the Biden administration. But President Trump and his CIA director, John Ratcliffe, have repeatedly promised more intense action against Mexican drug cartels. Increasing the drone flights was the first quick step. For now, CIA officers in Mexico pass information collected by the drones to Mexican officials. And the drones do go well into Mexico's sovereign territory as part of the operation. According to the Mexican government, it has taken steps to address the Trump administration's concerns about fentanyl. Mexico has also reportedly deployed 10,000 troops to the border this month, but the Trump administration wants Mexico to do more to destroy and dismantle fentanyl labs and to seize more of the drug. The drones have reportedly proven adept at identifying labs. Remember, fentanyl labs emit chemicals that make them easy to find from the air. However, during the Biden administration, the Mexican government was slow to take action reportedly against labs identified by the Americans, but it did use the information to make arrests. But the surveillance drone flights have caused concern in Mexico, which has long been wary of its northern neighbor, following multiple U.S. invasions and land grabs. But when asked about the drone surveillance program on Tuesday, President Claudia Sheinbaum told reporters that it was part of the country's long-standing cooperation with the U.S. forces. She said, and I'm quoting here, "It's part of this little campaign in addition to the CIA's efforts." The U.S. military's Northern Command is also expanding its surveillance of the border, but the U.S. military, unlike the spy agency, is not entering Mexican airspace. So far, Northern Command is set to have conducted over 24 surveillance drone flights over the southern border. They have done this using a variety of surveillance aircraft, including, also including the P-8S as well as drones. The U.S. military also created a special intelligence task force of 140 analysts who are located near the border to analyze the information being collected by the surveillance flights and other sources as well. It all started when Donald Trump signed an executive order on January 20th, calling for a crackdown on major cartels. According to reports, Trump administration also planning to designate a half-dozen cartels and criminal groups in Mexico as foreign terrorist organizations. The designation would give the U.S. government broad powers to impose economic sanctions on groups and entities linked to them. During a visit to the southwestern border this month, the U.S. Defense Secretary did not rule out conducting cross-border raids to pursue cartels inside Mexico. He told reporters, and I'm quoting here, "All options are on the table." Shifting focus for now, Elon Musk has called for an audit of the United States gold reserves stored at Fort Knox. Why does Musk want to audit is the question. What is he looking for? Several conspiracy theories are also doing the rounds on social media. Musk's call for an audit has ignited discussions about transparency and accountability regarding the massive national treasure. Take a look at this report for more.
Initiative to crack open Fort Knox treasure follows revelations that the gold reserves are not subjected to an annual external review. That has raised concerns among critics and lawmakers alike. Let's look at the background of the country's massive treasure trove, valued at about $425 billion. The United States holds the world's largest gold reserves, totaling over 8,100 tons. This is according to the World Gold Council at the end of 2024. Fort Knox alone is reported to contain around 147.3 billion troy ounces of gold, equivalent to approximately 4,580 tons. That makes it a critical component of the nation's financial security. The US Mint estimates the book value of this gold at $42.22 per ounce. However, the current market price of close to $3,000 an ounce suggests it is worth significantly more. Senator Rand Paul has been a vocal advocate for greater scrutiny of these reserves. He has highlighted the lack of a yearly audit during a recent appearance on Fox and Friends. He stated, "The more sunlight, the better when it comes to government transparency regarding public assets." Musk's inquiry into whether the gold is reviewed annually received a stark response from Paul. "Nope, let's do it." This exchange has sparked interest in Musk's newly formed Doge, potentially leading an audit. The previous comprehensive audit of Fort Knox's gold was in the 1950s, with a partial inspection in 1974. Since then, there have been no independent verifications, leading to various conspiracy theories and skepticism about whether gold is still present in its entirety. In 2017, former Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell visited Fort Knox but did not conduct an official audit. An audit led by Musk's Doge could have significant implications for public trust in government financial representations. It would verify the existence and condition of the gold or challenge broader credibility if any discrepancies are found. Experts suggest that internal reviews happen regularly. A thorough inspection would involve weighing and assessing each gold bar against official records, a task that could be both costly and time-consuming. Public reaction has been mixed, but largely supportive of Musk's initiative for transparency. Many see this as a necessary step to restore confidence in US financial practices amidst growing skepticism towards government accountability. As discussions continue, it remains to be seen whether an official audit will take place. More importantly, what its findings might reveal about one of America's most guarded financial assets. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Let me now ask you this. How often do you find yourself saying you got a gut feeling about something? It could be good or bad. But what about how your gut is feeling? Well, it definitely needs to be feeling good. Your gut health, after all, is more important than you think. In fact, what's happening in your gut is also linked to your mental health. What if you were told that having kimchi and other probiotic foods can help your mental health? According to researchers from Duke NUS Medical School and Singapore's National Neuroscience Institute, germs in the gut can cause mental health issues. Let's just break this down for you. Basically, there are molecules called indoles. They're called indoles. You don't have to worry if you have not heard about them. They are made by the gut microbes and are involved in metabolism. They play a direct role in regulating brain activity linked to anxiety, as per the researchers. And this is extremely significant. It was found that germ-free mice, which are basically devoid of gut microbes, exhibit enhanced anxiety-related behaviors. Tests on mice showed a crucial connection between gut microbes and anxiety-related behavior. But what's the way out? The solution could be probiotics. They are good for your health, and consuming more probiotic foods or supplements may restore the natural balance of bacteria in your gut. So, just to put it simply, probiotic foods can help both your gut and your mental health. And they come in various forms. If you like having kombucha, that could also be your pick, even kimchi, sourdough bread, for example. Just to list out a few ways in which you can increase your consumption of probiotic foods. So, fermented foods and probiotic supplements could actually help improve your mental health. The findings are also important as they open the doors for crucial possibilities for new probiotic-based therapies to improve mental health. The team, in fact, is already looking into doing related clinical trials. And by the way, this is not the first time the link between what's happening in your gut and your mental health has come to the forefront. A team of scientists also found a probable causal connection between a form of bacteria found in the human gut and the onset of depression. The research was carried out by a team from Harvard University and Massachusetts General Hospital. Donald Trump has humiliated Europe, and how? His reason is clear. European nations have made America into a cash cow for their security. They have not spent what they needed to on defense and evaded his repeated exhortation to raise their defense budget. In fact, Donald Trump's message is absolutely clear. If America does the spending, America will take the decisions. Europe, used to being mollycoddled, is dazed, confused, helpless, defenseless even. On Tuesday, in fact, American and Russian officials met in Riyadh to discuss ending the Ukraine war. Left out in the cold, European leaders are recalibrating their limited options. On Wednesday, French President Emmanuel Macron called a second emergency meeting of European allies. Europe, infuriated by the exclusion, warned that no deal could be made by America and Russia over Ukraine without Europe at the table. Washington and Moscow were not listening. Trump is not plotting against Europe. He is merely pointing out Europe's irrelevance to a watching world. But France says it does not understand the logic behind Trump's statements. Listen in.
United States President Donald Trump makes statements as the days go by, all of them extremely proactive, without consulting European countries, France no more than the other European countries, and we are trying to understand the coherence over time. And the discussions and statements made yesterday by Mr. Trump are in that vein. We don't understand the American logic.
But Trump and Putin do not need either advice or instructions from Emmanuel Macron. On Tuesday, in fact, Trump asked, referring to Europe's obstinate unwillingness to spend on its defense, where all the money is going.
And we have to equalize with Europe because Europe has given us given a very much smaller percentage than that. I think Europe has given 100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any.
If you think that's harsh, consider this. European countries spend about 1/3 of what America spends on defense. The result? The defense capability of Europe from Britain to Poland is only 10% of America's, 10%. They know they are vulnerable, but they spend their budgets on a good life for their people in a way instead of defense of the realm. They have become dependent. They have lost their security independence. And an American president has now decided to show the world that the European emperor has no clothes. They have become lax, inefficient in their spending. Washington claims that it is being realistic, not negligent. In fact, following the high-stakes meeting in Riyadh, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said neither Europe nor Ukraine were being sidelined, and also that any solution to the Ukraine war must be acceptable to all. Not just that, Rubio also later briefed the top diplomats from France, Germany, Italy, Britain, the EU, about the discussions that took place in Riyadh. Now, the fact of the matter is that Trump and Putin will decide the future of Ukraine and the security of Europe. The deal they reach will have to be accepted by the secondary powers. Meanwhile, Russian officials did not mention offering any concessions, and US officials did not claim to have secured any during Tuesday's meeting. They have not set a date for a meeting between Trump and Putin, but both leaders have expressed a desire for such a meeting. Meanwhile, even as European countries discuss the possibility of sending peacekeepers to Ukraine, the Russian foreign minister has said that Moscow would not accept the deployment of NATO troops, regardless of the flag under which they would operate. However, there are opportunities for both Russia and America. Lavrov has indicated that there is a high interest in lifting economic barriers between the US and Russia. Rubio has also said that since European countries have also imposed sanctions on Russia, they would need to be involved in discussions about lifting them. So if the war ultimately ends, Rubio suggested it would unlock opportunities for US-Russian cooperation, potentially leading to some pretty unique, potentially historic economic partnerships. The fast-moving diplomacy, which started with a phone call between Putin and Trump just 6 days ago, has understandably caused alarm in Ukraine and European capitals. They worry that the two leaders could quickly strike a deal that ignores their security interests, rewards Moscow in a way, and leaves Putin free to threaten Ukraine or other countries in the future. But if Tuesday's talks are any indication, Washington means serious business. And as for Europe, perhaps Trump is exactly what they need. Someone to tell them it's time to grow up and grow out from America's security umbrella. Western Europe has been told to look after itself, and if it does not, there will be no babysitters from Washington anymore. And with us on the broadcast this minute is our correspondent Anas Malik, who's been tracking those developments very closely. He's with us from Kiev. Anas, thanks very much for being here. Let me begin by asking you to tell us more about what you have been picking up from on the ground as you speak to the people on the ground as well.
Well, Molly, this is the coldest I've seen Ukraine in 3 years off since the invasion began. This is my 4th time in the country, and the mood on the ground, it's somber and it's literally quite chilly. The temperatures have been dropping down to up to minus 16 degrees in parts of Ukraine. Celsius dropping to about minus 10 degrees here in Kiev. Even now as I'm talking to you, it's minus 4 with wind chills making it feel like minus 8. So the mood on the ground, it's chilly and it's somber. There's anger, there's frustration, but then there is some sort of relief that is directed among the people that these peace talks might just aim at or hint at ending that prolonged war that the people of Ukraine have been seeing, and they putting an end to their sufferings at large. Though the anger and frustration remains for the very fact that Ukraine is being talked about without Ukraine being in the room itself, and that is where the anger and frustration stems from. Molly?
Right. Anas, what more can you tell us about what's transpired over the last few hours, especially with Keith Kellogg in Kiev, and a lot of anticipation, speculation even, and optimism in a way, as you're suggesting, about some headway and the possibility of the war ending?
See, the thing is that people on the ground, you have a mixed bag of emotions or mixed bag of feelings. You talk to the normal people, they want the war to end, yes. Everyone wants the war to end. But at what conditions would the war be ending? That differs. The political elite or the ruling elite, they do not want a loss on the part of Ukraine or any loss on the part of Ukraine. People being from the working class, those who've lost their loved ones, they are sort of okay with the fact that there could be some territorial concessions to Russia and to Ukraine both ways, and all of this might as well come to an end. So in the past 24 hours or so, since the US and Russia negotiations have been taking place in Saudi Arabia, we've seen a barrage of attacks happening, especially in Odessa, where more than 160 plus drones were fired. 106 of them were intercepted, but at least 4 people have been injured. Now, these drones had been largely targeting energy and heat infrastructures, and as I said, the temperatures have been dropping down to about minus 16 degrees in parts of Ukraine. So these are largely aimed at causing or hindrances to the civilian lifestyle or to of daily use. So that being said, a short while back, the Russian president made his claim that an infantry brigade, the 810th Infantry Brigade of the Russian military, had entered into the Sumy region, a claim that has been duly denied by Kyiv, and immediately rather denied by Kyiv, saying that it was a handful group of saboteurs who were on a reconnaissance and they were intercepted, and right now there are no Russian troops on ground. Now, why is this significant? For the very fact that when the invasion began in February 2022, the Russian forces had withdrew from the Sumy region itself. So that is why the comments by the Russian President makes it very significant.
Indeed, and we are coming back to you as and when we have further updates coming in. Anas, thanks very much for now. What if you were told that your hard-earned money is being funneled into dubious projects worldwide? Not for humanitarian aid, not for economic development, but allegedly for wasteful, politically motivated initiatives rather than the people they claim to help. Well, that may just be the case with millions of Americans. A report from the US Department of Government Efficiency has revealed that USAID has allegedly operated with little to no oversight, claiming that it poured massive sums into highly questionable projects, all while dodging accountability. And according to a recent White House fact sheet, the agency has become a breeding ground for corruption and mismanagement. Let's just take a look at some of the most outrageous examples of this alleged reckless spending. We start off with reports of USAID being involved in foreign election interference. Earlier this week, the department, the agency, claimed $21 million was allegedly allocated by USAID to increase voter turnout in India. It's important to note that US President Donald Trump said India did not need such financial support. Meanwhile, responding to the claim, economist and member of Indian Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Sanjeev Sanyal, called USAID the biggest scam in human history. While in neighboring Bangladesh, $29 million reportedly used to strengthen the political landscape, leading many to suspect direct US involvement in the regime change that ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in favor of Muhammad Yunus. The pattern continues in Nepal, where $20 million allegedly allocated to a vague project aimed at improving fiscal federalism. But what does all of this even mean? Was USAID actively destabilizing democracies, that too with so much ease and no impunity? These questions remain unanswered right now. Meanwhile, in Serbia, an organization allegedly received $1.5 million from the Biden administration. What was the purpose? To push diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's business community and workplaces, promoting LGBTQ+ economic empowerment. But does this qualify as a priority for American taxpayers? USAID also reportedly approved $70,000 for a musical event in Ireland, not for economic growth, not for addressing poverty, but to spread a message of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What was the reason? Strengthening US-Irish shared values. In Guatemala, USAID reportedly has been funding organizations that provide sex change procedures and promote LGBTQ+ activism. A Guatemalan group, meanwhile, pushing this agenda, reportedly received a $2 million grant to support what the agency calls, quote-unquote, gender-affirming care. But how exactly does this align with the original purpose of foreign aid? According to the White House fact sheet, USAID funds meant for Syrian war refugees was siphoned off to Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists. As much as $10 million worth of food aid allegedly redirected to terrorist groups. For American taxpayers, this could amount to outright national security negligence, perhaps. And Americans reportedly want accountability. A recent poll by Public First, commissioned by the Financial Times, found that nearly 60% of American voters believe foreign aid funds are being wasted on corruption and bloated administration fees rather than helping those in need. So the questions remain. How much of USAID is being used for humanitarian aid? How much is being misused? And most importantly, how much is being abused? Only time may give us answers to these questions.